Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Scale Smart AI podcast. Today, I'm joined by Resha, the CEO of Lynx Automation. Lynx is a hospitality tech company that helps property managers and hotels automate their operations, and they're working with some serious names in the space, including Marriott, AvantStay, and Casago. Their customers manage over 50,000 properties across North America. And what makes her story even more impressive is that Lynx is completely bootstrapped, and they landed on the Inc. 5000 list as one of the fastest growing companies in hospitality. That kind of growth without outside funding says a lot about how well Resha and her team really understand this market. Resha also leads a team of about 75 to 80 people across multiple countries. So there's a lot we can dig into around building systems, scaling operations, and where AI fits into the future of hospitality. Resha, thanks so much for joining the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Daniel. I'm really excited and looking forward to our conversation.
Likewise, yeah, and I think for the listeners, it's going to be so interesting to hear, the original problem in hospitality that made you decide to build Lynx Automation.
And I'm excited to share my story, and I hope it really resonates and helps, listeners and founders and other hospitality operators just as much as it has helped us to, build this ground up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to get us started, how did you start the company? How did it all go down? And what made you start the company in the first place?
Yeah. I didn't build links from a whiteboard. I mean, I built it from a breaking point. I've been investing in and operating properties for over 15 years, short-term rentals, co-investments in boutique hotels alongside some of our own customers. So I was living both sides of the problem simultaneously. The operator trying to run an efficient business and the guest trying to have a seamless experience. I mean, we all travel. Here's what broke me. A guest arrives late at night. The lock code wasn't sent. Housekeeping didn't know the previous guest had checked out early. Three separate tools needed to be checked. Like, let's check the PMS. Let's check a lock app on the phone or something like that. Maybe let's check the messaging platform, like what went there. And none of them talk to each other, right? So one missed handoff and the entire first impressions gone. That review is already being written in the guest's head. What made it worse was that technology to solve this already existed. IoT, Internet of Things, had been transforming industries for years. But hospitality was still running on RFID technology, those white cards, like from the 40, 50-year-old technology, right? And in a world of real-time connected systems, operators were manually coding locks or, programming those cards using readers, chasing housekeeping on radio calls, losing revenue because there was no automated way to offer an early check-in upsell. So this fragmentation was inefficient. It was costing operators like me real money, real reviews, and real guests who don't come back, right? So that gap between what technology could already do and what hospitality was actually using, that's what became Lynx. So when the problem lives in you, not like just around you, that's when you know you're the right person to solve it.
Wow. Yeah, what an incredible story. And I mean, that's why you guys were able to bootstrap the company, is because you understand the market so well, right? And what the market needed. And your customers range from five property owners to companies managing over 30,000 properties. So how do you build something that works for both types?
A great question. This is, I think, one of the hardest product challenges in business to business software. And I'll be honest, we got it wrong before we got it right. So early on, we assumed that a five property owner and the 30,000 property owner needed fundamentally different products. We kept trying to build like two separate things, What we learned is that they don't need different products. They need the same infrastructure, but at different levels of complexity or at different levels of customization. So think of it like electricity. A single home and a skyscraper run the same kind of underlying system, right? The voltage is different, like in terms of usage, the scale is different, but the principle of electricity is identical. It doesn't change. So at Lynx, we realized that that foundation is what we need to work on first. That means reliable device integrations that we build on our own. No third party middleware, no using APIs from somebody else who's an API builder. We build them directly to the devices on our own. Similarly, seamless PMS connectivity and then automated guest workflow. This is the fundamental, structure. Every hospitality operator is going to need this. Now, what changes is the configuration layer on top. A 5 property owner needs simplicity and speed. They're often like the operator, but also the front desk, also the maintenance team, like they're all in one, right? And then a 30,000 property enterprise needs portfolio wide visibility, role based permissions, enterprise reporting, API access for their own development team. Or in today's AI world, API access that is given to a AI to build their own internal dashboard, right? Our qualification criteria also helped us get this right. From the beginning, we focused on operators with 20 or more units, which give us enough operational complexity to build real infrastructure, not like a toy like software, you know. And when enterprise customers came, the foundation was already solid enough to just scale it. The mistake I say most platforms make is building up from simple and then the cracks show at scale. We built for the operational depth first, and then simplicity came from making that depth more accessible, right? So build for the hardest version of the problem and then simplify the design on top of that great infrastructure. So that's how I would recommend someone else to attack that challenge.
Very interesting. And I guess, how long did it take you to build the product or the MVP before you were able to land your first couple customers?
The honest truth with startup is we kind of build as we get customers.
Mm.
So the MVP that we had built in the first 2 months was good enough for us to get a customer to understand that to acknowledge this is a real problem. I'm doing things manually. My teams are logging into Schlag app every single day, looking at which guests are checking in today and creating those codes manually on the Schlag app. And that we need to change that, right? And so with that acknowledgement, the customer was willing to work with us, even if we had not so pretty UI, but had solid backbone of that 100% reliability in terms of creating those codes in advance. And from there, actually, we really built something so unique because the customer's fundamental premise was I don't like manual work because A, it's expensive, of course, but B, it's not reliable. Humans forget, humans do typos, humans, you know, reading from one screen to another. Yeah, it's not reliable. And so that reliability comment stuck with me. And so we developed a proprietary edge software that lies on every single lock or smart device we work with. It creates codes 30 days in advance with a timestamp of the future. Our closest competitor creates the codes 1 hour before check-in. So you can
Mm.
see the difference in reliability. So now if you lose power, you lose Wi-Fi, you lose connectivity in that last hour, your codes or digital keys will not work with the competitor. But with Lynx, we have 30-day advance, reliability infrastructure to try, retry, for Wi-Fi to come back, for power to come back, and for the codes to be there, for you to have a 7-day, 3-day check-in process while saying, everybody that's checking in 3 days from now, do they already have their digital keys with them? Yes. With Lynx, you can see your report, which gives you that guarantee. And so to me, that is quite priceless, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you guys offer it 30 days before, competitors offer it 1 day before. It's a That's a huge difference, right? So clearly goes to show why your customers love you guys. And you run a remote first team, right? And I think that's a big part of your culture across multiple countries, right? How do you make sure everyone has fast access to the information that they need to collaborate?
Yeah, great question again. So remote teams don't fail because of time zones. They fail because of information architecture, or let's say lack of. So when your team is distributed across countries, the single most dangerous thing is tribal knowledge. The information that lives in one person's head that everyone else needs. In an office that gets shared informally. On a remote team, it just disappears the moment the person is offline. So we solve this by treating documentation the same way we treat product. It's never done. It's always a version. We have living playbooks for every function: onboarding, customer support, product process, escalation paths, inter-team working, everything. They get reviewed and updated continuously. A process that works for 20 people breaks at 80, right? So we rebuild before it breaks. The second thing is communication discipline. We're intentional about what's synchronous and what's asynchronous. Not everything needs a meeting. Most decisions can be made in writing with context document, so the person in a different time zone can contribute without waiting. And the third, which sounds simple but is rare in practice, is our leaders are teachers first. So if you're a manager at Lynx and your team can't operate without you for a week, that's not a performance problem. That's a systems problem that belongs to you as a manager, right? And this kind of discipline for our managers, I apply to myself as well. So the entire Lynx as an organization should be able to operate if I'm on a vacation for 1 week. And that's the kind of rigor we put into our SOPs, our practices that we have, right? So a remote team at its best isn't trying to replicate an office. We're not even trying to do that. It's a genuinely different way of working. We reward clarity, we reward documentation, we reward proactive communication, and trust over visibility, not hours logged. So the best remote culture, in my opinion, is not built on Slack. It's built on clarity.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I love your perspective of making sure all the leaders are teachers, right? And making sure that their team can function without them if anything does happen or they're out of the office. I think that's a very, very impressive culture that you've built. And, I'm curious on your perspective on, programming in general or developers in general. Obviously, with AI, a lot of code can now be written by Claude Code and all these other LLMs. Um, how do you think the job of a developer programmer has changed now? And do you think that a lot of them should use Claude or other models to help them create it and create 80% of it? And then they, as humans, tweak it to make sure it's the perfect solution? Or do you still think the best, technology and software is going to be created fully by humans without the help of these models?
Um, let me give you an analog. When we had computers that started becoming mainstream, where we all could afford desktops in late 80s, early 90s, and then by the 2000s we had internet, dial up, sure, but in every home, right? And kids could do homework on their computers, and those files that were, there are no files behind me, because we replace them by putting everything that we need in databases and in softwares and We don't even have expenses that we pile up as receipts, right? Everything gets scanned, everything goes into an expense software, etc. So what I'm saying over here with that analog is AI is just like that. It's in technology advancement. Internet really allowed the world to become a very, very small space where communication was so fast and so easy. AI is taking it one step forward where it is going to be not just fast, but even more accurate, even more intelligent, because AI has the ability to process everything so much faster, right? So, to answer your question, which I probably by now I think our listeners know what I'm going to say, is adopting technology is in the right format, in the right volume, will always propel us as humanity, us as teams forward. AI shouldn't be doing everything, okay? But AI should be doing everything that it can do really, really well. AI can code, AI can write a test document, AI can take a training, video call and summarize it into a beautiful statement, like your SOP, for example, right? It can scope out what you're supposed to do. So, yes, absolutely, including dev teams, test automation. I even challenge my team to say, why does a human designer have to make mockups? Why can't you have UI, designs made by AI? Have you tried that? And if you haven't, don't tell me that you don't think it's going to work, because that's your perception. That's not scientific way of doing work, right? So that's how I challenge my team. Is your approach scientific? You start with an hypothesis. My hypothesis is it would work, yours is it wouldn't. Let's experiment. Let's observe. Either one of us is going to be right or wrong at any given point in time. That's okay.
Hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's absolutely the right way to think about it. And yeah, technology will always, be there to make our jobs more efficient, right? So that, we can, I like to think of it as the 80-20 rule, right? Like 20% of our inputs are going to equal 80% of our outputs. So how do we use technology and now AI to help us streamline 80% of those tasks that only bring 20% of the outputs, right? The more mundane, redundant day-to-day tasks, right? That can be done by AI.
Yeah.
And going back to the hospitality space, right? Like property managers, they get flooded with guest calls. Hotels also get flooded with guest calls all the time, especially during peak seasons. Do you think voice AI agents are becoming a necessity in hospitality?
Yes. And the data makes a compelling case for why. 30 to 40% of guest calls to hotels go unanswered. Think about that. Nearly half of the moments when a guest picks up the phone because they need something, or maybe something isn't working, or maybe they want to extend their stay, nobody answers. That's not a staffing problem anymore, right? Like that's a structural problem that AI is uniquely positioned to solve. Voice agents in hospitality are already handling inbound calls for reservation changes, check-in instructions, room service requests, maybe local recommendations. They can do that in multiple languages. AI can do that at 3 in the morning without a single hold time, right? So for operators running remote or lean teams, or um, it to me it's like it's not a nice to have, it's a survival infrastructure that really improves the quality of guest service you offer as a hotelier or as a vacation rental manager, right? But here's the nuance. Voice AI is only as good as the system it connects to. An AI agent that cannot access real-time room availability, or can't push an update to a PMS, or can't trigger a housekeeping workflow, or can't actually, you know, change the thermostat or change the information shown on the TV, or cannot execute that upsell using, the payment processor APIs, then it's just a sophisticated voicemail of sort. Let me take the message, let me take the information you want, and then I'll actually send it to a human, right? So the value of voice AI multiplies when it's deeply integrated with the operational layer under. So what we're doing moving forward in a hospitality operation where AI handles um, every repeatable guest interaction, human staff is reserved for the moments that genuinely require judgment, empathy, creativity. To me, that's not like a diminished workforce. That's a very meaningful workforce, right? So, voice AI is not replacing hospitality, but I think it is really protecting the human moments that are worth having with your guest.
Hmm. You nailed it. That's absolutely how I think it should be, right? Like going back to the 80/20 rule, right? Like what are those conversations that the voice AI cannot have? Um, or shouldn't have, right? Maybe negotiating on price, or maybe there was a serious problem, right? That came up. Let's have a human resolve that.
Yeah.
Got it. And you went to the University of Chicago booth, and you also were part of the We STEM Accelerator. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
How did that teach you? What were the kind of the benefits of going through both the university and the accelerator that taught you some impressive skills to help you build a tech company?
Yeah, two very different educations, and both were exactly what I needed at exactly the right time and where I was in my entrepreneurial journey, you know. So Booth gave me the analytical framework, how to stress test a business model, how to read the market, how to think about unit economics before it becomes a crisis. So there's a lot of rigor at Booth that doesn't let you get away with hand waving. You have to defend your assumptions with data. That discipline has never left me. So when we make product decisions at Lynx, I still ask the same questions, the Booth professor would ask. What's the assumption here? I talked about the scientific method. What's your hypothesis? Let's start with as many as we need, right? And what would have to be true for this to be right? And then when you look at wisdom, it's like women in STEM. So that's what it really represents. It is at 1871 in Chicago, and it gave me something very different but equally valuable, and that's community. I was building a tech company as a woman in a space that wasn't built for or by people who look like me. So, Wisdom gave me a cohort of founders, female founders, who understood that experience without me having to explain it. The mentorship was practical, network was real. And then, that permission to take up space, to be ambitious without apology, was something I didn't know back then, but I needed it. And I didn't know it until I had it, you know. So together they give me both halves of what a founder needs, the analytical rigor to build something that is defensible, right? But the human community to sustain the belief that I can do this. And so the real world operating, I would say, sharpened both those halves, but that foundation, it matters. It came from there, right? So the best education, I would say, doesn't just teach you how to think, it changes what you believe in is possible for you. That's that's what really empowers you, right? And that's what I think I really got from these experiences.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I definitely can resonate when you were talking about what university gave you and kind of that problem solving mindset and always kind of testing hypotheses. Me going to Queen's Commerce at Queen's University here in Canada gave me the same foundation, but I've never been part of an accelerator. For other young entrepreneurs, looking to build a tech company, do you recommend they go down the accelerator path, or do you think it's only maybe a small percentage of tech founders should you know go through an accelerator?
That's a great question. I would say that not all accelerators are correct for all founders. So there is always that little matchmaking that you have to do. What is this accelerator going to offer me? And do I have or not have this skill? And that honest assessment is very, very important. I've looked at accelerators before that were very strictly about will help you fundraise, will put you in front of 50 investors. And then so I asked, okay, that's great. Who are those 50 investors? What is their background? What do they do? Right? And if they don't come from the industry you have a business in, the likelihood that they understand the problem or they have the conviction to invest in an early stage startup is rare, right? So then those 50 investors are wrong for you. So don't go to that accelerator. It's not going to benefit you, right? So that's one example of how you want to be very, very meticulous about interviewing the accelerator. These accelerators are very good at creating a FOMO for founder. You need to be in me, right? You need to be in YC, you need to be in Founder 500, or you need to be in Wisdom, or you need to be in, there's so many of them. Not everything's right for everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what you get out of it is also going to be very different. Um, and so, do you need it? Is the very first question, right?
And do you think most young tech founders without, experience creating a tech company in the past would really benefit from an accelerator? They just need to find the right one.
I think they would benefit because some accelerators teach you how to make investor presentations. They help you practice your pitch. And then they put you in front of investors that are, again, like I said, make sure they're the right ones for you. They're not going to waste your time because if you pitch to 50 investors and you didn't find investment, it's going to break you probably. It's going to discourage you. But that's the wrong signals coming from the wrong data set. They're not your customers. They don't understand the industry. They don't understand the problem. They don't have the conviction to put their own money into it, you know? So there's always no one right size fits all. Also, there are accelerators that charge you a certain percentage in terms of equity or charge you a certain amount to be a part of the accelerator. And I'm a little convinced that maybe some of those are not the right ones because before they create value, they want you to pay them $10,000. So that does not make sense for a founder. Please take that $10,000 and put it in your product or put it in your sales and marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't be giving an accelerator to help you raise money that you don't know they will help you raise money. Please hire a broker and raise money with the infrastructure or the legal language around. If you help me raise money, this is the percentage I will pay you. Not I'm going to pay you so that you can try to help me to raise money. So
Got it. Got it. Very nice. And you said leadership is about building systems and people that thrive without you. What does that look like in practice?
it looks like being replaceable and choosing that intentionally, right? So earlier in my career, I thought being indispensable was the goal. If everything ran through me, that means I matter. What I learned the hard way is that being the bottleneck isn't power, it's fragility for you and for the organization. So, in practice, building a team that thrives without you means a few different things, right? Like first, every critical function has a documented system, not a person. System don't take vacations, they don't have bad days, they don't take leaves. So when we document how something works at Lynx, we're not bureaucratizing it. We're making it transferable. Any process that lives only in someone's head is a liability. So that's a first main, thing that we think of when we're building this out. Second, hiring for judgment over compliance. So I don't want a team that waits for me to make decisions. I want people who understand our values, our goals deeply enough that they can make the decisions I would make, even when I'm not in the room. So that requires investing in context, not just instructions, right? It's like creating a clone, and not like one, but like 5 or 10 of them, right? Third, and this is the, I would say this is the one leaders resist most. You have to let people fail forward. If you rescue every mistake, if you're training your team to be dependent on you, it's not going to work. Real trust is giving someone the authority to own something fully, including the consequences. So the measure of a great leader, like isn't what happens when she's there. It's what happens when she is not there. So build something that doesn't need you to survive. And when that happens, you can focus on making it thrive because you're working on your business, not in your business.
Yep. I just read a book that talked exactly about that. You've probably read it before. Trying to remember the name of it here. I'm going to look through in my library. I think it's called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber.
Okay.
And that was exactly what he was saying is like founders need to figure out how to build a good system so that the system isn't dependent on them, right? And that you work on your business instead of in your business.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you absolutely nailed it there. I think that's a very important thing for founders to understand.
Yeah.
And as a woman in tech and a CEO, what's something you wish someone had told you earlier in your journey?
I would say that it is actually nothing to do with data or how to run a business or how to build a product. Actually, it's none of those things. It's honestly, I would have loved to hear someone tell me, cancel all the noise. Everyone that wants to tell you that you can't do it, you can't have, you can't hire men and have them report to you and then they won't listen, and then they'll not listen to you, right? Like cancel all that noise out because I found extremely good people, men and women, who had no bias, wanted to follow a good leader, just want to genuinely do a good day's work. And it had nothing to do with gender or race or any conditioning that we mostly talk about, right? So, as women founders, I think that's what I would say was the most important thing for me to realize. I wish someone would have told that to me and, maybe just cut out all that noise, all that doubt, all that thing that was holding me back from really believing in what I can step into. And that power, I would say genuinely, I got it from my team because they made me believe that everything I was hearing was not true. The truth is this: our interaction, our relationship, their trust in me, their ability to put all their energy, their careers, their life, this umpteen amount of hours to just do or act or make my vision come to reality. Right? And nobody told me that. So truly, I think it is my team. As much as I would want to sit here and tell you that I built my team and I built Lynx, it is equally true that my team has built me as a human.
Wow. It sounds like you really love your team.
I
And they,
do. And the beautiful part is that they love me as much. And it is that love and trust and that faith that they have in me is what really gives me that energy to wake up every single day and say, what are we solving today? What are we building today? you know, and I think it's very, very um, powerful.
Hmm. And you talking about your team and the culture you've been able to build just made me think, and I'm really curious about your perspective on this. Like, how do you build such a happy culture remotely, right? Like I know that's why a lot of companies are now going back to the office because oh, it's been so hard on our culture and like motivating people. Everyone's all over the place. We don't know if people are working, as hard as they should be. So everyone's coming back to the office. And then some, leaders like yourself are saying we don't need to go to an office. We can do this remotely. Are there certain tips that you have, like maybe like on Friday getting everybody together to like have a drink or something, or like how do you have such an inclusive culture?
Um, that's a great question. And I'm thinking that there are so many things that I might be able to tell you here because it's not just one thing that works to build this culture and build this relationship, right? More than half of my team has not met the other half of the team. There are people on my team who have not met any other human on the Lynx team ever, right? I haven't met more than half of my team in person ever either, right? So all of these things are true. And so we begin with again a document which says what are the values, what are the traits or characteristics we value in our team, right? And it's not integrity and it's not honesty. I'll tell you what they are. One of the things that, and how did we come up with? We came up with this by actually having all the leaders, all the employees we had back when we were about 20 people. And we sat down and we said, who are the people we like on the team? Now let's say, why do we like them? Why do we think they're good to work with, but they get things done, but they're also fun, right? And we wrote down all the traits that we valued as a team. And we went on with iteration after iteration to pick which are the common ones. And then finally came down to the top five that we all believed were non negotiable. Okay. And from there came our culture matrix of sort, where on number one on that was growth. Every single person on the team was growth oriented because they were all A players. They want to grow in their life, in their career. They want to learn new things. They want to try different things. That's why they're in a startup, you know? And they don't care how many times the product changes and how many enhancements we add every single week. They're ready to learn and update themselves. So that's an example of real, true value matrix that comes from real people, not from, oh, well, I think integrity is a great thing to put on that chart. Let's put integrity. Oh, and yeah, you know what? Let's put that teamwork and let's put perseverance. I'm not saying those are bad. I'm just saying, is your genuine team able to relate to it? When we hire people, when we are interviewing, we interview for those skills, and every manager has to rate the people for those skills. Meaning, it's not just about how technically good you are in support or engineering or finance, and can you use that tool? Sure, all of that matters. How do you rate on those five things? And only if someone is a good 4 on 5 or a 5 on 5, they're going to get hired. Now we take
Got
it
it.
into onboarding and we say the first thing we do is we talk about those and we explain them what that means in practice. And so, to answer your question, Daniel, like I said, I could tell you so many things that you do structurally right from the day you're interviewing a person to hiring to onboarding to, yes, Friday meetings, team meetings, games that we play, over video calls. We do even small questions like, beach or mountains, right? And then we all talk about our favorite vacation spots, for example. We talk about our pets. Everybody posts pictures when they celebrate a festival, when they have a big occasion at home, new gadgets they buy. So we do try to create a lot of that camaraderie through that, you know, communication channels that we have within the team. But the most two important things I would conclude with is reward and penalties. No system works well unless you have both. So we reward when you work as per the culture or the value matrix of the company. So if you proactively flagged something you couldn't do, you would not be met with, oh my God, why can't you do this? You'll be met with, I'm glad that you pointed this out early in the process for us to all think about the corrective actions we can take together. It's a reward. You proactively communicated risk. So nobody's scared of talking about risks because we have to manage them, right? And when you don't follow the matrix, then that's when we have warnings, we have performance improvements. We talk to that person and we say, you missed this particular critical factor in terms of accountability. And here's how you should be doing it differently next time, to show that you understand what accountability means in Lynx. So I would say any system that doesn't have both these things will eventually fall apart, no matter how everything else you do. So
Wow. That's great advice. I really, really appreciate that, Resha. And it's been such a great conversation. And for our listeners, if they would like to reach out to you or your company, what's the best way for them to do that? Is it LinkedIn or send you guys an email?
absolutely. So I'm available on LinkedIn. You can connect with me there. And then our company website is www.getlynx.co. So on our website, you'll have options to connect with us or schedule a demo. Or obviously, if you like what you heard and you want to try Lynx, then you can also email sales@getlynx.com.
Perfect. Okay, Resha. Well, thank you so much again for the time. What an insightful conversation. I think our listeners are definitely going to get a lot of tidbits out of there to obviously help them in their day to day. So hope that you have a fantastic rest of the day, and best of luck with everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me, Daniel. This was such a wonderful conversation, and we covered so much from human elements to technology. It was such a holistic conversation today. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.